I want to have a conversation about something that's a little bit maybe experimental feeling in your head, but I think we can all relate to it, okay? And it's this idea called distant empathy. I heard about this idea from a guy named Shane Hips, who is a pastor. He used to work for Porsche for advertising. He also has been a Mennonite pastor before.
Wow.
So he has a lot of experience in the advertising world and also like Mennonites. So
that's crazy. That's a crazy combination.
It's an odd combination of things, but he's a really smart guy, and I heard him at Catalyst Conference back in 2009. So this was a while ago, but man, has this come true. And so here's the idea of distant empathy in 30 seconds. We only have a certain amount of empathy, understanding, care, connection to give to other people. And we weren't made for the 24-hour news cycle, social media onslaught, YouTube, billions of hours of content watched every day. Like, technology grows faster than our ability to kind of keep up with it.
Yeah.
And at some point, you're going to run out of empathy to give, and you don't get to pick what you give empathy to, right? Like, I get to pick who I love, right? I get to pick who I give myself to in a lot of ways, like to my family and my kids, and I can say no to other things. But empathy is something that you don't get to choose how you give it. So when you give it away, you give it away. And so an easy example would be like, if someone was bitten by a crocodile in Florida, but you live in Tennessee, but you see that story on the internet, like, you feel for that person, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That hurts.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you don't get to be like, I don't care, right?
Yeah.
Your body's like, whoa, I am expressing this feeling for you. I'm expressing empathy. And so Shane was saying, and this was like years ago, a decade ago, saying that, and this was really before Facebook has become the explosive thing that it is, and like everybody has push notification. Like, even back then was saying that we weren't created for this sort of cycle. We weren't created for this much information to be given to us. And so, I mean,
I think we feel that. We're feeling the effects of that.
Yeah.
When you look at the stats, it appears that people are more depressed.
Yeah.
People are more feeling alone and not feeling love. And we have this conversation all the time, talking about this, because I think it is the cause, and understanding it is the solution to depression, to a lot of the things our culture is experiencing right now. And I personally feel this.
Yeah.
I feel the weight of this.
Yeah.
And you don't want this tank of empathy to be empty all the time, because then that affects your family, that affects you, that affects your work, that affects your whole life.
And I think here's what happens when you run out of empathy, right? When your tank is empty and you're depleted, you go into like this sort of base mode of like, yes, no, good, bad. I like this, I don't like this, right? And so online, that's like, well, they're dumb because they think this. Well, you're dumb because you like, but like you forget that they're people.
Absolutely.
Because your brain's like, nope, I just need to make decisions, right? It becomes like, I like this shirt, I don't like this shirt. Your political views are useless, and mine are, and
absolutely.
Like, it's only divisive. It's only just beating your head against someone else's skull, because you don't see them. And so part of that is just the way that we interact, like the medium that we use. But I think a big part of that too is just that we're out of, our tank's empty.
Yeah.
Like, we're depleted.
Well, and I mean, it's literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Like and money is essentially being made off of it.
Yeah.
Like I talk to other people that are in advertising, and the whole goal is to spark some kind of emotion in people. That's why we share things on social media.
Yeah.
Because it makes us sad, or it makes us happy, or it makes us angry. And unfortunately, the bulk of what we share tends to be those sad things and those the things that make us angry.
It's usually not encouragement.
No, it's not.
It's things that you either agree with or you have this very like visceral reaction to, but it's so dividing, and because we're so depleted, that division just becomes like multiplied, right? Like it just becomes greater. And because there's not even a face-to-face, it's so easy to just completely write off. And it's disheartening to see that, right?
Yeah,
to see the way that people act online and in real life, honestly, because I think the way you act online is just a representation of it. Like,
Absolutely.
It's who you are, you know? And
Absolutely.
so what do you do about this, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I
okay.
was going to say. So what's the solution here?
Well, so I think honestly, the biggest thing is to be aware of this. When
Yeah.
I was in college, I actually did my senior research project through mass communications at North Greenville University. Shout out North Greenville if anybody watches this and goes there. I did a research project with one of my friends, and I had her for a few weeks track her usage of her computer, TV, you know, all these things, all these different mediums that she interacted with, what was happening, and then a reflection of how she felt at the end of the day. And here's what I found was the more input that she had, and especially when it was negative or bad things happened, like at one point some sort of natural disaster was happening during this experiment, and so like it's all over the news, it's all over the Facebook, it's all over Facebook, the internet. And that, like she said, yeah, like I could tell a marked difference when I thought about how I felt that day.
Yeah.
I felt worse because I was experiencing all this. And days that I was more disconnected or had more positive swing experiences on the uptick, I felt better. And so I think, you know, the biggest thing is to be aware of that, to be considerate, because you don't get to choose, right, like the empathy that you give. You don't get to block that.
Yeah.
So knowing that you don't is half the battle. And then the other thing is just to be mindful of times of disconnecting, times of recharging. Like find what you need to get better, to refuel yourself.
I mean, that's it for me, disconnecting. Like when, you know, when me and you started having this conversation, like I intentionally started pulling back from social media and pulling back from news and pulling back from noticing everything that I was giving that empathy to. And realizing that, and that doesn't mean that I don't care.
Right.
I don't care about those stories, but if I know that I'm limited and that my soul was not meant to bear the burden of literally the entire world, right? Yeah. Then I'm going to channel that toward my family. I'm going to channel that toward my friends and make sure that they're getting empathy from me more so than, you know, these things happening that's, you know, miles away from me.
Right. And so then you can channel what you have left to do good in those things, right? So it's kind of like, you know, you put good in, you get good out, but also you're recharging that empathy because it's not something that goes away and never comes back. It's just getting depleted, and it's like never getting filled back up because we're just like shoving more into the empathy bucket, and it's like there's like
it's gone.
I can't counterbalance this anymore. So like, okay, here's an idea that I'm going to try. Someone suggested this recently. If you have an iPhone, I think Android phones will do this too, like a do not disturb mode, and now they have like do not disturb while driving, which is really nice, so you don't text and drive and get calls and stuff.
I'm using it right now.
So people don't, you know, call us while we're recording this video. But one thing that people are doing is using that do not disturb while driving mode as a, hey, I'm in the middle of doing kind of some deep work, or I'm in the middle of something else. If this is urgent, you know, you can still get in touch with me, but I'll see this later. Like you're putting it in driving mode when you're just sitting and working, or you're sitting with your family. So it's like, you know, I can't turn my phone off because, you know, people, you know, we're in a connected world, and sometimes you need that. Maybe you're waiting for an information, like you have to get this email, it's important, or someone might call you. So put it in do not disturb while driving mode, and then if someone really needs you, it'll let it come through. You know, it's just like
I know somebody that actually deletes all their social media apps and then re-downloads them. So at those times during the day when it's family time and when, you know, it's
they just delete them off their phone.
They're gone. They delete them and then they re-download them again. Sounds like a lot of work. But
well, and probably the work of like, am I going to re-download this again?
Oh
like,
yeah.
Or like I'll do it
in
later.
the moment.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know, whatever it looks like for you and whatever, but I think all of us can relate with that feeling of just like being so tired mentally and physically exhausted. Like it goes into every part of your life. And so maybe for you, it's just, you know what, I'm going to spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes reading my Bible and praying, you know, or I'm going to just disconnect from the world and spend some time praying and meditating or whatever it looks like for you to get away, or just playing. Like, it doesn't have to be difficult. It's just, I think it's something that you don't accidentally do.
Yeah,
Where you're not going to accidentally recharge your batteries, but this phone and the TV and all the things that are all around us and advertisements and you know, like thousands of things that hit us every day.
You're going to get hit with it.
It's going to get you.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of that and make steps to get better, to be more empathetic, so we can have something to give. And man, we could use more of that.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's great that it's coming from the online director, because
Yeah.
you think of out of all the people that you would be most like, just get on social media, and
Yeah.
but
And-
there's a healthy,
and
healthy amount,
and it's draining. And even in my time here in the last like 9 months, like I've experienced like exhaustion from connecting with people online,
Yeah.
and even in positive ways, right?
Sure.
Not just in like political banter, but like people reaching out because they're hurting. Right? People that are asking us for something, and I'm wanting to give them that and offer them
Yeah.
help and counseling and encouragement and discipleship. Like there's a toll on me that takes.
Yeah, and you
So-
don't want to waste it elsewhere.
Exactly,
you don't want
right?
it to be wasted on.
So yeah, like there's incredible things that are happening online through Highlands, but through all people from churches and organizations all over the world. And I want to be sure that I have the ability to do that and care for those people well, and my family well, and other things well. And then if I have some left over, like we can talk about politics or the weather or whatever, whatever. But I want to make sure that I'm there for the people that need
Yeah.
me.
Absolutely.
And I don't get to pick when I'm being just my tank is empty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so if this resonates with you, if you're like, yeah, I feel that, and I would imagine that if you're watching this video on YouTube or listening to this podcast, then you're taking in a lot of media, like you probably feel this.
Yeah.
Let's make this year a year that we are more empathetic toward other people,
Absolutely.
that we see each other for who we are, which are people created in the image of God, and
Absolutely.
people who are loved by Jesus. Like that's who we are. Regardless of what you think about XYZ topic,
Yeah.
you are a child of God, and so let's do things that help us see each other correctly.
Amen. It's good stuff, man.